a prophecy no Jedi ever read in full. A child born of no father. A Sith Lord who doesn't believe in redemption, only in controlling death itself. And an order that twisted a prophecy so badly it stopped recognizing its own death sentence hidden inside it. This isn't fan theory, it's in the books. Welcome back to the archive. Today we're setting the record straight on the Chosen One prophecy, because what the movies show you is just the short version of a story that's a lot creepier than the Jedi Council ever admitted publicly. And yes, that council had access to a lot more information than it ever mentioned in any Senate hearing. The prophecy no one actually knew. In the movies, it sounds simple. A chosen one brings balance to the Force. Qui-Gon believes it, the Council doubts it, and by the end, nobody's really sure who was right. What the movies leave out, that one line is just the final sentence of a much longer prophecy, one that only shows up in full for the first time in Claudia Gray's novel, Master and Apprentice. There, we learn that Dooku was obsessed with these exact texts as a young Padawan, long before he ever became Qui-Gon's master. He showed his own student the prophecy holocron in the archives and warned him in the same breath that too much knowledge of the future leads straight toward the dark side, a warning he clearly didn't take all that seriously himself. Qui-Gon inherited the obsession anyway, the way a curse gets passed down through generations. His own take on it is almost more philosophical than religious. A prophecy matters less for whether it predicts the future correctly, and more for what its interpretation reveals about the fears and hopes of whoever's reading it. A belief that would go on to shape his entire life, including the decision to look at a 9-year-old slave boy and see the chosen savior of the galaxy. And these old records contain a lot more than just the one famous line about the Chosen One. There's a passage about the sacrifice of many Jedi meant to cleanse the order of an old sin. One about a danger from the past sleeping inside an egg, ready to threaten the entire galaxy the moment it hatches. A line that sounds suspiciously like the Sith, who'd been hiding in plain sight for generations. And only after that comes the sentence everyone knows, a chosen one shall come, born of no father, and through him will balance be restored to the Force. Sounds like a clean-cut hero's journey. It isn't. And the archive hasn't even gotten to the most uncomfortable line yet. There's a second prophecy in that same book, one that fascinated Dooku even more than the first. And it might explain exactly why the Sith took such a keen interest in a child born of no father. The prophecy that interested the Sith. This second prophecy is quieter, but a lot more unsettling. Whoever learns to conquer death will live on through his greatest student. In the novel, it's specifically Dooku who can't let go of that one line long before he ever turns to the dark side. That's not a coincidence. We already know from the films that Palpatine was obsessed with cheating death, and that in his famous monologue about Darth Plagueis, he implies his old master learned how to create life, not just preserve it. That story was later told in full in the Legends novel Darth Plagueis, which is no longer official canon, but its core idea survived intact in that one movie scene. Two prophecies. One fatherless child, a Sith Lord hunting for exactly that. The archive doesn't connect these dots by accident. In other words, the prophecy the Jedi read as a promise of salvation might actually have been a Sith project that just happened to land on the recipe for its own downfall. And if that's not unsettling enough for you yet, even Yoda arrives at a deeply uncomfortable realization about this whole story by the end, just not on screen, but inside his own head, somewhere we only get to go thanks to the book version. In Matthew Stover's novelization of Revenge of the Sith, in the middle of his duel with Darth Sidious in the Senate chamber, something becomes painfully clear to Yoda that the screen never lets him say out loud. Yoda's secret realization. The Order had spent its entire existence preparing for the old Sith. Loud wars, visible enemies, clear battle lines. But Darth Bane had rewritten those rules centuries earlier. Just two Sith, invisible, patient, growing across generations while the Jedi kept watching for a threat that no longer existed. Yoda realizes he'd already lost this fight before it even began, not because of one tactical mistake, but because the entire order had become structurally blind to the real danger. A museum that spent the whole time thinking it was a fortress, while outside a new enemy had been playing by rules nobody understood anymore. And that's exactly where the prophecy suddenly starts to make sense. Because once a system is that deeply blind to its own weakness, a single victory can't save it anymore. It needs a complete collapse before anything new can grow out of the wreckage. And that's exactly what Anakin delivers, just not in any way the Jedi Council ever pictured it, and definitely not the way the Sith were hoping for either. Balance through destruction. The Jedi expected a savior, someone who'd defeat the Sith and restore the old order, but the Force doesn't think in terms of good and evil, it thinks in terms of balance. And balance doesn't automatically mean victory for one side, an uncomfortable idea for an order full of absolutists. In the end, Anakin does exactly what that old prophecy predicted, just in the most uncomfortable way imaginable. He tears down a galaxy that had been badly out of balance for a long time, too many Jedi who thought they were infallible, a Sith empire hidden for centuries, an order that never spotted its own blind spot even though it literally had an entire archive room full of prophecy holocrons that almost nobody outside a handful of oddballs like Dooku or Qui-Gon ever bothered to actually study. In the end, exactly one Force user is left standing, carrying both sides within him, light and dark at once, and who, fittingly, saves his own child as a dying old man in Episode 6. He wasn't the hero the Jedi wanted. He wasn't the pure weapon Palpatine wanted to use either. He was simply what that prophecy actually described, misread for generations by exactly the people who needed it most. So the Jedi never picked the wrong person. They just expected the wrong story to go along with the right one. And Rael Averross, another one of Dooku's former students from that same book, puts it almost casually. If there's ever true balance between light and dark, it stops mattering which side you pick. Qui-Gon disagrees with him instantly. It matters very much which side you pick, he says, even if there's never more light than darkness left in the galaxy. Maybe that's the actual punchline no movie ever says out loud. A prophecy doesn't necessarily lie. It just doesn't always describe what its readers want to hear. The Jedi read a promise. In reality, it was a warning. And the Sith, who wanted to weaponize that prophecy for their own ends, ended up creating the exact thing that wiped out their own order too. Nobody in this story truly understood the prophecy before it was too late. Not the Jedi, not the Sith. Only the Force itself seemed to know exactly what it was doing the whole time.